What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the King's Court podcast, presented to you by SacktownRoyalty.com and sponsored by RateCrushers.com. It's on that side. I'm your host, Vince Miracle. You guys can follow me on all social media platforms of @VMCenter. It has been a ridiculously long week. The last podcast I did, for some odd reason, the microphone just made me sound like a robot the entire time. I tested the audio here. It does seem like it's working. I hope it seems like it's still working by the time this video is done recording. I'm not doing this live today, unfortunately, but I still wanted to make sure I provided you guys with that weekly content that I promise you here on this channel. Our goal for 2023 is nothing crazy. It's to hit 500 subscribers. We are about 5 away from 400. So if we can get to 500 by the end of the year, I think that's steady growth for here, a brand new channel for Sacktown Royalty, for myself, or providing you guys with tons of content. So if you haven't done so already, please do me a huge favor and go bookmark our site, SacktownRoyalty.com. We're working on some things heading into February that I'm very excited to announce when the news does break. Unfortunately, I can't say it yet, but if you guys listen to a ton of different podcasts, I listened to a ton of different Kings podcasts. I did guest on a show recently. I'm not even going to say the name of that show, but I did guest on a show recently, and I told them that the chances of something happening was 55-45 right now. 55% still a no, but 45% still a yes, because we're still in that limbo stage of figuring out if we're going to be able to capitalize on certain opportunities. But I'm very excited if this does come through. So please stay tuned for that. A lot of things to talk about here, guys. Number one being Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox both potentially being all-stars. Look, the NBA fan voting is ridiculous to me. Like, to be 100% honest with you guys, I do not think fans should have any vote whatsoever on a player's career. And that includes being an all-star. That there's certain parts of these players' contracts, not saying Sabonis or Fox's, but there are incentives in these contracts that allow them to reach certain bonuses and to reach certain heights in their contracts in the latter years of their contracts, if possible, if they achieve their incentives early, on becoming an all-star. And with this NBA fan voting and having 50% of the vote, I feel like you're making it a popularity contest. Ja Morant, who gets a ton more screen time, obviously he's on a good team and he's a highlight film ready to on any given night to happen. But is he that much better in terms of on-court play and production than a guy like De'Aaron Fox right now? Those are the questions I'm asking. Like, look, I get it. You want people that are going to put asses in seats. You're going to want a guy that can do that. And look, Memphis is the number 2 seed in the Western Conference right now, so maybe that's a bad example. But let's go down the list. Like a guy like, let's say, Anthony Edwards, who's going to be listed as a guard for a lot of these positions. He has a big popularity around him about the Ant-Man and his strength and his ability to dunk. He's the youngest player in NBA history now to have 500 three-pointers up to this point of his career. But the Minnesota Timberwolves are in 9th place. And De'Aaron Fox has carried his team, with Sabonis obviously, to the number 4 seed in the West, a team that no one looked at as being anything close to this in the offseason. Now I get it that the coaches are going to have their vote and everything like that, and a lot of people that I talk to, it seems as if Sabonis almost is a lock to make it into the All-Star game, almost as a guaranteed lock. I would say it's an 85% chance he's in. Maybe even a little bit higher. Maybe I would go in like the 92% chance he's in as an all-star. So then the question mark comes around De'Aaron Fox. And there's been a ton of injuries, guys. Like Steph Curry's missed time. Dame has missed time. Jamal Murray has missed time. LeBron, AD, they've all missed time. Where Zion's even missed time, right? So does CJ McCollum become a guard for the Pelicans? Like, there's so many people that have had injuries where this Kings team has stayed relatively healthy, knock on wood, so we can continue seeing that throughout the rest of the season. But they've stayed relatively healthy. And Fox is right now a leader in fourth quarter points. He's been someone that when the game is on the line, and the Kings have had many games this season where it comes down to these last 12 minutes, they've put the ball in Fox's hands, and he's leading the league in fourth quarter points. He's leading the league in fourth quarter charges. I think there's a real case for him to be an all-star. The problem is that because the NBA is also looking at it to be a popularity contest, he may not get in. Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's not? I mean, I personally just don't think it's fair for fans to even have a vote in this. I think it should be NBA writers, beat writers, and things like that, as well as coaches and players. I think that should be the general vote for an NBA All-Star, because that not only does it affect incentives, on their contract. Maybe you guys don't really care about that stuff, but if you look at the end of their careers, that's how they're introduced. That's how they're known. How many All-Star appearances? How many championships? How many first-team All-NBAs? These things all come up when you're talking about certain players, even after the game is over. And you're telling me that the fans are allowed to just make a vote? The fans are allowed, as a 50% voter, they're allowed to decide if their favorite player should go in. Are we really saying Derrick Rose is an all-star? He's one of the league leaders in votes right now for fans. Derrick Rose? Is he even playing anymore? I think he's got 2 minutes the other day for the Knicks. It doesn't make too much sense for me to be seeing guys like Derrick Rose or Austin Reeves, because they're in these big marketplaces. They're getting a lot more publicity because they're in these big marketplaces. Even as a bench player, former star, look, Derrick Rose is a former star. He has a big following in China. I get it. So, but that player who does not play anymore is now an all-star in 2023. I don't think so. Austin Reeves, who I think is averaging right around 12 to 14 points per game right now as a third, fourth option for the Los Angeles Lakers, is a all-star over De'Aaron Fox, who has his team in the 4th seed right now. That baffles me. So to have fan voting, I just don't think it makes sense. I mean, I got it the first year. I understood what they were trying to do because the All-Star game has been dying out. They're trying to find ways to grow it, right? But to have this now be a thing where it's every single year, you've changed the All-Star game enough to where people are excited to watch the draft aspect of the NBA All-Star game, right? So it's never just East versus West. It's this leader, this person in the league voting in the West, this person in the league voting in the East. Now you guys get to draft your team. I think that should take away fan voting because that already draws attention to the screen. Not to just see if your favorite player is an all-star. I think that should come down to the actual production that they're putting on the floor, not from fan votes. I mean, that's just me. That's just me. I would love to hear your guys' opinion down in the comment section below. How mad would you be if De'Aaron Fox didn't become an all-star? I really want to know, how mad would you be if De'Aaron Fox didn't become an all-star? I think that's a true topic, and I think that's a true discussion that needs to be had, because who are you also going to be taking out? So is Lillard still an all-star? Maybe. He's still Lillard. I feel like this is the all-star game is also like one of those things. Once you become an all-star, you're always looked at as an all-star. It's hard for you to, as long as you're continuously doing relatively the same production, you'll always still be in. And Lillard has that stuff about him, Dame time, all that good stuff. Okay, so he's in. Is Paul George and Kawhi in for how much time they've missed? They're sitting in the 6th seed. I mean, okay, they probably are. That's fan votes, right? Steph's missed a lot of time. He's probably not in. So Devin Booker could be out. That could open up a guard spot. He's also missed a ton of time. But then SGA, who's almost averaging 30 points a game, has an OKC team on the verge of a play-in spot. When this OKC team was known for tanking, no one thought that they would be even associated with this. Everyone thought they were going to be blown out by 20 plus points. They shouldn't even be at 20 wins. I think their over-under was 23 wins. They're at 21 now. So, okay, SGA is one. Are we really going to give Utah, because the Utah Jazz, they're hosting the All-Star game? Is a Utah player going to make the All-Star game? Is it going to be Lauri Markkanen? There's rumors it could be Jordan Clarkson. That takes a guard spot away if that is Jordan Clarkson. CJ McCollum. Has he been an All-Star this year? The question is, who are you taking out? And how disappointed are you going to be if De'Aaron Fox doesn't become an All-Star? Leave your comments down in the comments section below. After this commercial break, we're going to talk about Harrison Barnes and the trade market. I have an article coming out, I believe, Wednesday, tomorrow, discussing the Harrison Barnes situation. And we'll talk about it a little bit here right after this. Whoa, definitely don't have a guest today. Look, this Harrison Barnes situation is something to monitor. He's finally found his groove. Harrison Barnes he's been on a roll over these last few games. He's stayed hot. He was one of my biggest takeaways from the Kings' recent win. And his win over the Spurs was crazy. He's averaging 25.5 points and 4.5 three-pointers per game over this Kings 4-game win streak. He's found his role as that third option. As that veteran, he does so much for this team. But here's the thing. He has 1 year left on his deal. 1 whole year left. And will this be a team that he's going to want to be a part of moving forward? That's a real question. Look, at 30 years old, going to be 31 heading into next season, teams like Phoenix, who has shown a ton of interest in Harrison Barnes, was linked to the Kings during this past offseason on trying to acquire a Harrison Barnes for like a Jay Crowder type of player. I just don't know if Sacramento is going to be a place where he's going to want to be at the end of this year, whether the team makes the playoffs or not. That's the big debate. Because then, let's say you don't trade Harrison. Now you've lost him for absolutely nothing. He walks in the offseason. Yeah, you have the cap space, but like we've all discussed, there's not a lot of free agents that tend to come and sign to Sacramento. It's arguable that Malik Monk has been one of the best free agent signings the Kings have ever had in their franchise. Free agent signings. That's a potential 6th man of the year in Malik Monk. And so there's not too many of those out there that want to come to Sacramento. But then the counter is this. The Kings are finally winning. They're the 4th seed in the Western Conference. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're having this 16-year playoff drought hanging over this franchise like a dark cloud. It's tailored to them. Everyone looks at this Kings team and kind of just gives this ugly face. They laugh behind closed doors about this team, talking about what are they. But this year, they can't do that. They're lighting the beam. Some people still don't believe it. I was listening to JJ Redick's podcast not that long ago, and he's talking about light the beam. You know, JJ Redick is not a huge fan of Sacramento. You can just tell by the way he talks. And this is just me picking up on how he speaks about this team and the players and things like that. But you can't deny how good this team has been. Highest scoring team since the 1988 Denver Nuggets. First time since, I believe, 2002? 2004, this team has been 6 games over 500. Their defense is horrible. And that's the one big need that needs to happen. But, okay, Harrison Barnes is your best trading asset. As a player, 1 year left on his contract. He can help produce with any team. He could be used anywhere. He can flip between both forward spots, the ability to defend both forward positions, that catch and shoot three-pointer, get you in the post, on a DHO, on a screen and roll. This guy has really been developing and maturing over these last few years here in Sacramento, obviously with Golden State winning that championship. But what do you get back that makes you think that this Kings team, where they're now hitting on all of these cylinders, yes, their defense is bad, but their offense is through the roof. They're arguably the number one offense in the league. I know it says, I think the number that they're third in the league, but you can make a true argument that they're the number one offense in the league. Decimals away from the Boston Celtics. Just decimal points. But what do you get back from a Harrison Barnes that takes you to that next level? Any trade that I come up with, it almost seems unreachable on both sides. If I had to be realistic on any deal, it would probably be a deal that acquires Kyle Kuzma in a trade. Okay, Kyle Kuzma is a nice player. Like, maybe in the offseason, if that was the deal, it would make sense. But now, in the middle of the season, when this team is showing so much chemistry, showing so much life on the court, the ability to fall behind and yet still believe that there's a chance for them to come back with their offense, with certain defensive players on the floor to get stops, like a Davion Mitchell, Harrison Barnes. Those guys get you these stops. And then you see these Kings teams fighting for the win, and obviously, Mr. Fourth Quarter, De'Aaron Fox, he's getting the job done. This team is winning because of their chemistry, because they're all buying in to Mike Brown and this system. It doesn't always mean that if you go and trade for another player, they just come in and it meshes well and it works. A winning season for Sacramento is making the playoffs. A winning season is breaking that drought and being competitive in the playoffs. I don't know if trading for a Kyle Kuzma, let's just say that's the one, makes this team take it to the next level. Does Kyle Kuzma fit the timeline? Of course. Has he shown the ability to knock down a three-point shot and be a scorer whenever needed? Yes, he has. Has his defense improved? It has. It has really improved. I have to give Kyle Kuzma credit. Fits the timeline. Improved offensively, improved defensively. Learned to play both the 3 and the 4 while he's been in Washington. Still wouldn't do that deal. All the things that you're looking for in a type of trade for Harrison Barnes make sense. I get it. But it doesn't take this team to the next level. And when you're this Kings team right now and you're trying to make the playoffs, it's the good old mantra, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It ain't broke right now. There's nothing to fix. Now, there's things to tool. I'm not saying there's not trades out there that shouldn't be done. And unfortunately, to receive talent, you have to give up talent. Does that mean possibly having to give up on one of your best perimeter defenders and a Davion Mitchell? Maybe. Package that up with a pick. And here's another big question too. Like, can the Kings call over to Atlanta because of that Kevin Huerter deal and release the restriction on a pick and just say, hey, here's the pick I'm going to give you. And then just because you're helping me release this restriction, I'll give you also a second round pick in return. The Kings have the Indiana Pacers 2023 second round pick, and they also have the Dallas Mavericks 2024 second round pick. So relieving themselves of one of those to also release the restrictions of the first round picks to Atlanta would then open the door to many deals. A trade that I throw out to you is here something like this. Like, would you do a Davion Mitchell, a first round pick in, let's say they give up the 2024 first round pick to the Atlanta Hawks, so the next pick you can trade would be the 2026. So you do the 2026 first round pick, Davion Mitchell, and the 2023 second round pick from the Kings. So you get 2 picks, Davion Mitchell, for Alex Caruso and Patrick Williams. What does that get you? Say the trade again. Alex Caruso and Patrick Williams. Kings give up Davion Mitchell, the 2026 first round pick, the 2024 second round pick, and a 2023 second round pick. 3 whole picks. 3 whole picks, 1 player. You get Caruso, you get Patrick Williams. Now, maybe Patrick Williams is worth a little bit more, but at the same time, as much as he has grown as a player this season. He's finally finding his legs. He's also been a player that has proven in his young NBA career that he's injury prone. He's not much of a real scorer that everyone was hoping that he can develop into. He's not a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. It's the little things. I mean, even on the year now, Patrick Williams is only averaging 10 points and 4 rebounds. He's not getting a full steal. He's not getting a full block, but he is knocking down 1.5 3-pointers per game on 8 attempts shooting. So, those are the type of deals. A smaller deal, Alex Caruso can fit right into that Davion Mitchell role. But does that make this team that much better? And these are the questions that you have to ask yourself if you're the Kings trying to make a deal. Okay, so you gave up a future pick, you gave up 3 seconds, and you gave up Davion Mitchell to get Caruso and Patrick Williams. Did that make this team that much better? I'm not sure. This Kings team also needs a backup center. Can you trade Richaun Holmes and a first-round pick? Maybe you do Richaun Holmes, a first-round pick, in those same 2 seconds, and you try to look to acquire PJ Washington and Mason Plumlee. Would you do Richaun Holmes, Davion Mitchell, and a 2026 first for PJ Washington, Mason Plumlee? Mason Plumlee's on a 1 year. It gives you more cap space. PJ Washington makes sense on this team whether or not Harrison Barnes stays or goes. And PJ Washington has proven that he can be productive both off the bench and as a starter. He's seen both roles there in Charlotte, and he's both shown to be productive on both sides. But does that make this team better? Giving up some of the future for a right now, does that make this team better? Does it take the next step? I think of the 2 deals that I like, obviously I'm going to lean more to the Mason Plumlee, PJ Washington side. I like Patrick Williams. I like Alex Caruso. I think they'd fit perfectly here on this team. But the trade that I like would be like a Richaun Holmes, Davion Mitchell, a 2026 first and 2 second-round picks for PJ Washington and Mason Plumlee. That's a deal that I could see being reasonably reached. I don't know if it's reachable, but I can see like a negotiation there that makes a little bit of sense. There was one trade I made that actually Fanspo tweeted out because they were like, this came from, SB Nation, which obviously this show is brought to you by SB Nation, Sacktown Royalty. But there was a trade in there that they were like, what do you guys think? This is a good deal. Got a ton of views. A lot of people were up and down and they were mixed on it. But look, I don't mind the Davion and Richaun type of deal. It just has to bring back that same type of defense and make this team take that next step. Those are the type of deals that you can make. I don't know what the true value is for a lot of these guys. Like, I still think Davion's a late first, early second round value around the league. I believe that Richaun Holmes is a mid to late second round pick value. So you're going to have to add a pick to these guys to be able to acquire something that really makes a change. And that's the whole part of this trade deadline is you don't want to break chemistry. You don't want to break a large portion of this rotation, but you want to add and you want to bring in pieces that could make an impact while they're on the floor on multiple streets, like in multiple different ways. So that's the question you have to ask yourself. Okay, yeah, trading Harrison Barnes for Kyle Kuzma, yeah, that's a great trade. That makes sense. I would do that deal if it was the offseason. But does it make you better now? Okay, I would trade Davion for a Caruso, Patrick Williams. But does that make you better now? I mean, that's a good one. I mean, maybe. Richaun Holmes and Davion for a PJ Washington and Mason Plumlee. Does that make you better now? These are the questions. Does it make you better now? Does it help you moving into the playoffs? And the last thing I'm going to say about Harrison Barnes before we get on out of here. With Harrison Barnes, he's the only one on this Kings team that has true playoff experience. Kevin Huerter's seen the playoffs, Sabonis has seen the playoffs, but not to the level of Harrison Barnes, a former NBA champion that's on this team, who also has something to prove when he gets back to the playoffs. I think that experience, that calmness, the ability to take off on any given game, the fact that he's found his role, he found his niche within this offense of being a catch and shooter, his ability to screen and roll now as a 4 on the dribble handoff. Look, he sets an off screen roll. Sabonis finds him instead of doing a pin down or a DHO for Fox. He can find Harrison Barnes rolling. Harrison Barnes can get you one-on-one in the post. He's shown that he has the ability to beat some people off the dribble. That's what you're going to be looking for. It's hard to find wings at his height, at his size, that can defend both forward positions and a few guards and find that role almost seamlessly this season. Like, it started off a little bit slow because he wasn't knocking down shots, but as I said in the beginning of the year, I never wavered on what Harrison Barnes can bring. And you can check all the receipts. Check prior shows, check other podcasts I've been on. I never went away from believing in Harrison Barnes. And look, he's here. He's arrived. He's found it. I just don't know if there's anything out there that makes you better. And I know it brings a lot of question marks heading into the offseason, but I think trading Harrison Barnes would be a mistake. Unless it's for something mega, like OG Anunoby, maybe. Okay, I'll do something like that. OG Anunoby, sign me up for that type of deal. But away from a trade that you just cannot refuse, I think trading Harrison Barnes would be a huge mistake. But we will see what the Sacramento Kings will do. I want to hear all of your guys' opinions. What deal do you have on your mind? What deal do you think would make the Kings better now? I want to hear all about it down in the comment section below. Thank you guys all for watching the Kings Court podcast, presented to you by SacktownRoyalty.com and sponsored by RateCrushers.com. Everyone, do me a huge favor. Follow me on Twitter at VMCenter. I've been your host today, Vince Miracle. Follow the site at Sacktown Royalty on Twitter. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and also hit that subscribe button so you're not missing out on any of these podcasts. We will be going live once again next week, giving out tickets to another Kings game here very, very soon. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, and until next time, Sacramento Kings fans, peace.